Good evening, everyone. Once again, in our day 3, session 4, we will be talking about the supply chain and ESG. This particular topic is slightly different from core from the supply chain, but it is something which is actually important when we are talking about usually when we go to the hospital and coming out. We used to have a certificate that all the things have been good, and then only the doctors used to release us. It is something which is also similar to that of ESG is also similar to that of that particular thing, where a company need to publish its own report and stating that the things are in line with the guidance, guidelines, regulations and every possible thing. It includes every bit and byte which we have discussed from the beginning. It talks about the resilience, the topic which we have, and the economic dimension and various other perspectives. And if you go by the Polman's statement, where he categorically mentioned that we cannot choose between the economic growth and sustainability, means we have to go along with both the perspective. The thing is that economic growth in isolation can't work out in the present context when we are talking about, and we have various statistics that also validate that if we are only focusing on the economic growth, we do have a lot more challenges. So it is important, being a company, that we have to take care of. The reason is very simple, because we being a business, we are a part of the society. When we are taking out something from the society, it is our responsibility that we have to give it back to the society. By any mean, maybe if you buy as a CSR, the term which you must have heard of, corporate social responsibility. If we have done something, we are taking out something, then we have to give it back to the society so that the people who are in the community should be benefited out of our efforts which we are doing for our business. If we see the various vulnerabilities of supply chain, we discussed yesterday also that climate disruptions. COVID-19 is one of the examples we discussed yesterday also. Scrutiny from the non-traditional supply chain stakeholders. Now at this point of time, it is not only the companies who are actually evaluating. Everybody, every possible stakeholder is actually evaluating us. So we are, being a customer, community, and every person whosoever is there in that particular supply chain will have to hold a responsibility that they will evaluate us. So now if you talk about the tension or the sense of responsibility has been increased to the companies. Changing the customers' demands. You must have heard of the example Zepto, which is within 10 minutes they used to deliver every possible thing. Initially, when this concept has been evolved, it was a very categorical statement that this will not have a huge success. But if you see in India, it is, especially I'm talking about the tier 1 cities, it is a significant success is there, particularly if you talk about the Zepto. And positive side is good that yes, we are getting everything within 10 minutes of duration. And the reason, if you see, yesterday we discussed that convenience. Every customer is looking for the convenience part. So obviously the disruptions used to happen in the supply chain, and the example is Zepto. At the same time, if you look at the pitfall or downside of this Zepto is, usually if you go by the articles in the various newspapers and researchers have published, it is actually adversely affecting. Do the main companies, e-commerce companies or retailers are getting affected, or somebody else is getting affected out of Zepto's introduction? Quick commerce, because of the quick commerce, who are mainly getting affected?
Retail sector.
Retail sector. Retail sector in the sense?
Kirana store.
Initially, when the Zepto has been launched, it has been categorically mentioned that they are going to help Kirana stores. But actually it is happening reverse. Kirana store are getting actually affected with the introduction of Zepto. So it is with the change in the customer's demand over the period of time, you'll find out that the things which are evolving will have to be well taken care of. Then we have the changing regulations. As and when the regulations over the period of time, if you see in from 2000 onward, when the corporate governance has been introduced, and we have a very simple logic. If you are trusting someone, then all things are okay. But in business, trust is something which is very subjective, because explanation of trust depends upon various other factors. So the thing is that if the trust is declining among the different stakeholders within the business, if we talk about all the members who are there, who are the part of this particular business, if the trust deficit is there, what is the best possible solution to the trust deficit we have? What best we can do to reduce down the trust deficit? How we can address the trust deficit in business? Because in families it is okay. Parents have strict regulations up to 16, not beyond that. Even we had a discussion yesterday also. Up to a certain age, parents have a restriction, but beyond that, they do not have. But company, being you are a responsible business owner, you are a responsible company, so you have to be, you are supposed to be in line with the vision and mission and everything. But if there is a trust deficit, what is the solution? A possible solution. Nothing is permanent.
So, first of all, to do away with the trust deficit, first of all, sir, the company has to accept that there has been something wrong in that, because of the
usually not happen. Why should I accept that I am wrong?
Sir, actually the same happened with Nestle when that Maggi thing came out in the market, and they took away all the Maggi products from the shelves of all the stores across India. So first of all, they accepted that there has been some mistake, and second, sir, improving upon the quality. That can be a thing, because Tatas have also in the past, whenever there has been something wrong from their end, first thing they have done is to accept the thing that something has been wrong.
Coca-Cola is one of the best example in India. In somewhere in 1980s, in Kerala, they have been banned in India and have legal complication have gone for some around 10-15 years. But the company has not accepted that they did anything wrong. Similarly, if you consider Apple, market leader, and they have the case with the Foxconn, and we usually discuss in corporate governance about Foxconn case, Coca-Cola case, that we used to do when the something is going wrong. And most importantly, if you talk about the Foxconn case, it is a supply chain partner who used to build, manufacture for the Apple iPhones, and this company was there in China. This company was going through too many turbulences with respect to the human rights and others. So, still, I will not accept that I am wrong, first of all. If I am accepting, then there is a huge significance will be there in the investor's mind. They are my primary source. So, for that, the solution is compliances. We have to come up with the compliances, and among them, one is the ESG. In due course of time, we'll see that still it is voluntary in nature, but from 2023 onward, the top 1,000 companies have been made it mandatory. And the next big thing which is coming up in India is the carbon trading. Most of the polluting industries, they are very much into, huge discussion is going on, and they are in the process of applying this. So carbon trading is another thing where initially the government was trusting the companies that they will mitigate the environmental impacts, but it has not been done. So they are supposed to come up with another possible solutions where they have come up with more compliances. And now you are supposed to abide the compliances. And then we have a rising social and environmental awareness, where we discussed in our yesterday's class also that Bonvita and Cerelac case, the content of sugar which has been keep on increasing. So, and the reason is, one of the reasons, those social media have an adverse impact, positive and negative both. If you see in, for the youngsters basically, Social media, Australia has banned the social media for kids up to 16 years of age. But this is the social media which has created an awareness with respect to the, if you talk about the Bonvita or Cerelac. Even if you remember that Fair and Lovely, one of the most traditional cult brand of India, that has also changed its name, mainly because of the compliance. When the customer become more powerful, they were supposed to change their name. Otherwise, previously they were keep on going and propagating the same set of advertisements. So, with the increasing social and environmental awareness, the things are also changing. And most important part is the business that effectively manage the complexities. If the businesses who are more resilient in the nature, they are actually going to sustain for a very long period of time. If we are not able to adapt the changes, then the chances of the survival is lower. Example is Nokia. With the change in the technology, with the change in the customer preferences, if we are not able to adapt, then the problem will occur. If you talk about Nokia, then we have, if you remember that one Indian brand in the mobile phone, Micromax, and at that point of time it has gone a huge momentum. But the important part is, being a customer, I should be satisfied. Then only I will go behind the particular brand. So these things, that is important that we have to adapt all and each and everything. In addition to that, if you see the vulnerability, if you look at the statistics, the report has been published in 2021, and if you look at the different states, these are the states which are highly vulnerable in the nature. At any point of time, if you talk about the seismic zones, where there is a possibility of what you can say, earthquake and etc. are there, and if you talk about the northern part of the country, we are in a seismic zone 4. So it is, and there the word resilient actually come into the picture, how adaptable you are to the upcoming challenges. Odisha is one of the very best example when we are talking about the vulnerability, especially in case of any disaster. The ODRF, Odisha Disaster Relief Federation or something.
Action Force, Action Force.
This is one of the best in India, because if you remember in 1999, after the super cyclone, this particular division has done tremendously good, and they have been well prepared beforehand. So it is important that how you are assessing the upcoming challenges. Business, we cannot avoid the business. We are the upcoming manufacturing hub. We have various slogans if you talk about Make in India, etc. And at the same time, we need to address all the possible challenges, not only with respect to the environment, because when we are talking about the sustainability, environment is not the only one. So if you look at the vulnerability, it includes the various aspects, and mainly if you talk about exposure, then we have disasters, we have and the best part is, as and when we are moving further, development, economic development. With the development, the things are going positive. For example, if you see, I can quote from my area, because actually I am from Lucknow, so there in that, the concrete jungles are evolving. If you are spending 5 days here, the things, the temperature comparatively in the campus is slightly lesser than the outside. At the same time, if you go to the big metros, you will find out the difference in the temperature, mainly because of the various reasons. If you go to Delhi, which is struggling from a very long period of time with that pollution part, smog and other things. So as and when we are keep on evolving, we are keep on developing, the vulnerability is keep on increasing. And when we are talking about this climate change, these are the various different facets that are actually going to impact. When we are evaluating this vulnerability, it is having a very simple definition which talks about exposure into sensitivity, how you are sensible, how you can actually address, and then what are the adaptive capabilities you have. And based on that, this particular index have been calculated. And if you see how much you are exposed, as and when you are having a high vulnerability, means you are not going on track. There is something wrong and you have to modify yourself. So it is important that we have to have a good adaptive capability, otherwise the things will not go well. Denominator is supposed to be stronger, otherwise the scenario will be different. If you have heard of that, the capital of Indonesia, Jakarta, maybe in if you go by the estimates and the reports, maybe in another 50 years that particular city will not be there, and they have been started developing their new capital because of the increase in water level. Even if you go by, there are reports which are published, any of these cities in India which are coastal cities, they are into the problem. Mumbai, if you talk about, Visakhapatnam, if you talk about, even if you go in detail and discuss, explore about the status of Puri, there have been some of the villages which have been submerged. So at one point of the time, we have been doing very good. Economic development is there, and it is important. We can't deny that, because by end of the day, if you talk about the Indian perspective, we need a jobs, and if economic perspective, economic prosperity will not be there, that is going to be a big chaos. So economic development is important, but at the same time, we have to address that where we are standing with respect to the adaptability when we are talking about, with respect to the resilience when we are talking about. Apart from these things, if you see decent jobs, again I am talking about the formal sector. Informal sector, we used to have many challenges. If you go by Narayan Murthy sir's statement, work-life balance is nothing. It is something which is very subjective. Sorry to say from HR perspective, because from HR this is something which is very much important. But unfortunately, if you see the people who have been working in the corporates, they must be knowing that work-life balance is something which is like wish to achieve but won't be able to achieve. Sorry? It's a myth. So, but that work-life, apart from the work-life balance, if we go Herzberg's two-factor theory, there are various other facets where the basic minimum requirement which are supposed to be required by an employee, that is to be provided. So, in addition to that, if we are talking about the salary structures and other things, that is economic concern. Taxation, if you talk about GST, we have 4 to 5 different slabs are there, and people have an arguments on a regular basis that in one particular dimension the GST is higher. For example, if you see in some of the areas which are actually necessary, but the GST is around 18%. That is subjective, which may be changed over the period of time, because the GST council used to have regular meetings. Then we have, it is important, another important facet is like building a long-term shareholder and stakeholders value. And the very best example is Li Feng's case. This is the company which is a supply chain company. Initially, if you look back and check out the history of this company, it was a trading company which has been operating from Hong Kong, and have a multi-location manufacturing units were there. Simple job was to procuring the products from different locations, have been sending it back to the European countries, to the US Western countries. Over the period of time, the only important part was they have a very strong significant thing, that was a trust among the traders, because this is one particular thing. If you have developed that, because there are numerous traders are there in the same line, but the trust is something which actually built over the period of time, and this company has done that. Even if you see from 2005 onward, when this IT has been introduced, they were compelled to switch toward the IT. and again they have done tremendously good. So at any point of time when you get an opportunity, must read the case study of Li Feng. Two different perspectives are there, where how this company has been managing the complete supply chain, and in the given period of time, all the things which we have discussed, that has been well maintained by the company. Then if you talk about the price paid to the developing country producers, example is Foxconn. Again, it's one of the case study which is available, where how the Foxconn have been treating its employees to gain the mileage in terms of the profit, and it has been, and though it is a supplier, but Apple was responsible, because Foxconn was not known by the Apple customers. And if you see that if anything is happening wrong with the Foxconn, Apple supposed to be responsible, held responsible. But actually Apple has taken action against the Foxconn, and this is what the supplier relationship what we are talking about. Everybody in the supply chain should be held responsible. If something is happening wrong in the complete supply chain, everybody will be held responsible. So Foxconn have been penalized, and mainly because the Apple customers were not very satisfied, mainly because of some of the death had actually happened in the Foxconn unit, mainly because of the long working hours were there, and as probably we had one of the discussion in where like China is one where the factories are so big where everything will be there within the premises itself, and if you see that working hours were so elongated that they were not able to use any of these facilities. If we talk about, employees were working so hard and resulted into some of the deaths and other casualties. Then we have human rights and labor right issues. Again, if you see the case of there is another case of Walmart, where the women employees have actually lodged the case in the court about the disparity in the income. That women employees were getting less salary in comparison to the male employees, whereas even that case has gone too long, but finally they won the case. So if you talk about the social issues, they are quite common, the marketplace and the consumer concern, and somewhere in 2000 the concept of Millennium Development Goals have actually come into the picture. But again, will not get deeper into that, but if you see that they have been developed mainly for the developing nations. We are the one who are actually creating every possible thing. Rest developed nations are very good, and that's the reason why in 2015 SDG came into the picture, which includes not only the developing nations, everyone, because what we are doing today have been done by others long back. Even with respect to the carbon trading also, the same phenomena. So Millennium Development Goals is another aspect. Then unfair business practices and everything what we are talking about, it is all the things are happening. Even if you the resource depletion, energy and forest, minerals and metal resources, there is a report on this Brazilian rainforest. In Brazilian rainforest, if you go through the report, you'll be shocked. In Brazilian rainforest, the local community, they were cutting down the trees and everything. Though we used to say like we have to plant more set of trees, but they were cutting down the trees. Any guesses like why it has been done? And if you go through the report, you'll find out a very like the burned babies, monkey babies and others in that particular report. It has been there. Any idea why?
Sir, due to the forest fire, sir? Forest fire?
People were doing, local community was cutting down the forest. Not because of the fire, maybe because of some external reasons, increase in temperature, etc., dried forest or other thing.
Excess CO2 emission?
Excess CO2 emissions, no. Excess rain. What is the fundamental, what is the basic thing a family needed?
Sir, to acquire land for the increasing in population of that tribe.
Livelihood. They have been struggling for the livelihood, and what they've started doing is they have been started making the grazing lands, increasing the number of the cows, and from the cows they have been exporting, these cows have been exported to European Union, US, China. Now they are happy. So the bottom line is, for survival, we need, for our livelihood, we need money, and that is the one reason where they have done such a big thing. If you go through the report, it is really like last maybe hardly 3 to 4 months back this report has been published, and it's if you look at the pictures, it's not so good. So here the most important part is, one side we have been talking about the resource depletion, and that is good, but when we are talking about the environmental issues, and even when we are talking about the economics or environment or social, the bottom line is that we should have a livelihood. If we will not be able to sustain ourselves as a human, then rest of the things, why we should bother about any other thing? And for this Brazilian rainforest is one of the very simple example which explains every possible thing. Then another environmental impacts, as ma'am has already discussed in our sessions about the greenhouse gas emissions and ozone depletion, etc. Even if you see this ecotoxicity, this is something like we used to in our farmlands and others, we used to have more pesticides, and if you usually we prefer green, red, and the picture which ma'am shows, that carrot and brinjal and all these things, if they are good in color, then only we used to purchase. But if you see, usually we find out that in most of the cases people used to prefer the vegetables, those who have some sort of insects or these what you can say, insects are there in the vegetable, they prefer that. Can you tell me why? One side we are talking about the green, full colored and ornamented vegetables, if we talk out in that particular sense.
Sir, in fact, one of my bosses shared with me maybe 10-15 years back that when he goes to the market, he chooses brinjals which have some holes. I was surprised. Why so? He told the same thing. Means they have been eaten by insects, that means less of fertilizer and all. It was a surprise that I could know that time.
Actually,
of course, I am not following his advice.
We usually do not go by that way, but this is the reality. And even usually you have seen that, and this ecotoxicity has been impacting the what you can say, marine life and every other things, even the insects and the soil and every possible thing, which has been depleting the value, the nutrients of the soil, the organism which are there. So that is something important, and that is the reason why you might have to, we started preferring that organic products. Again, that is, I will not get into that greenwashing, and there are so many things, because on the name of organic, on the name of sustainable, you can sell off anything. These are the two big words which with that we can do marvelous things. Then we have, and thereafter we have environmental standards which we have to focus, that we will try to understand. And if we go by the Indian overview, as I said, in 2022, government has mandated that all top 1,000 Indian companies supposed to go by this BRSR reporting, or you can say the ESG reporting. They are supposed to conduct this ESG report. They have to prepare their ESG reports. It's a baby step, it's a nascent step, but it is most important step where we have to follow. These companies supposed to follow. If you dig deeper into the BRSR report, you'll find out that even at this stage it is nascent, but by this way it has been compliant to top 1,000 companies that you are supposed to follow each and everything, every bit and byte which have been mentioned over there, not up to a certain limit. Though in this also we do have a certain catches that we'll see. At the same time, you must have heard of the green bonds. Green bonds, sustainable bonds, and too many things. Where how the companies are investing and other things, where you might have heard of the term called sustainable finance also, green finance and sustainable finance, where the major focus is that how the activities have been going green, how the activities are going sustainable, in how many such activities the companies are actually investing. The most important part is investors. In any company, the investor is somebody who's having a very critical role. And if you see, if you go by the survey, as ma'am has told in a previous class, that it is subjective, will be having certain biasness, agreed. But if you look at the investor's perspective, plastic reduction, most of the people are talking about the plastic reduction, that it is supposed to be there. Then if you talk about the community development, climate change is another important concern, and multicultural diversity. All these perspectives are important, but here if you see, most of the people are more concerned about the environmental dimension. And at this point of time, when we are talking about the shareholders or investors, I'm talking about the big investors, not retail investors like us, because we are mainly running behind the profit. But if you talk about the big investors, they are mainly looking into the ESG investments. How much investment the companies are making into the ESG in terms of the technology, in terms of the innovative products, innovative ways by which they can actually address the environmental, social or other challenges. If the company is genuinely doing investing, then the investors are more inclined towards such kind of companies. So this is what the importance and the significance of ESG is there at this point of time. If you see the possible solutions which we have discussed about the challenges, it is supply chain supposed to be closer to the home. In our yesterday's case, which we discussed about the sustainable kit, the things have been produced in a different part of the country, and travel time has been there, the distance they have covered, the logistics, the emissions and other things. Intervention of the technology and the strategic partnership, which ma'am has covered in due course of time. The point which we are trying to cover is the voluntary or mandatory reporting. At this point of time, still it is voluntary in nature, except these top 1,000 companies. But then now government is making it mandatory slowly and slightly. And if we try to understand the sustainability reporting landscape, most important part is that these are the certain frameworks which are there. And if you talk about this SASB and integrated reporting have been merged together, they have been mainly applied in US part, and they are known as a Value Reporting Foundation now. Then the most important one is the GRI, which is a pioneer in this area, have been started off in somewhere in 1998. They published their first generation 1 standard in 2000, and this is one which actually talks about the impact part, which is most important, that how the companies are actually impacting. Then these reporting frameworks are basically based on the variety or number of the global standards, which are global goals and the principles which are available. SDGs, there are 17 SDGs are there, which are supposed to be inculcated and addressed under the various reporting standards. And the most important part, if we talk about, it is debatable, but still, because being a sustainability learner, we used to have this kind of query, that we usually use sustainability synonymous to the environment part. Right or wrong? We used to have 3 perspectives: economic, environment and social. Which is supposed to be prioritized? First economic, then environment, and then social. Somebody else may have a different viewpoint. Now there is a tie between economic and environment. Social is on the back side. Somebody else have any thought? It's a very And it's a common question usually if you have been going through the sustainability or ESG or this
Sir, it
perspective.
can be economical, then social, because CSR activities is mandatory for the organizations to conduct. Then comes the environmental. It's actually related with the social one
Okay.
somewhat.
That we will try to find out in a later due course of time, that which is supposed to be prioritized. We have a variety of those global principles and goals are there. Based on these goals and the given set of regulations, these frameworks used to be developed and company used to apply, they used to publish their reports. Are you doing right or wrong? Where we have been talking about efficiency and effectiveness. This is one of the case where we'll have to test both the parts. And when whatever you are doing, whatever reports you are publishing, that will be evaluated by some third party. There are ESG rating agencies are there who are used to evaluate, they used to collate the data from the website, from all possible sources from the ESG reports, and they used to rank the companies based on their performance, ESG performance or the sustainability performance. Bloomberg is there. We have been working on Bloomberg data for that ESG score. Then we have Refinitiv is there, which is actually working on MSCI. These are the variety of the rating agencies which used to rank the Indian global companies as such. In India, recently, CRISIL has been rating Indian agencies. So these are the rating agencies which are actually cross-checking our, as a company if I talk about, they are cross-checking our performance, that whatever we are reporting, is it in line or not, or it's simply a greenwashing. Now if you see yesterday's class, we talked about the TBL, that is triple bottom line, which talks about the profit, 3 P's of, not from the marketing perspective, people, planet and profits, which includes 3 dimensions. At the same time, there is another term called ESG, which talks about the environmental, social and governance. And finally, if we talk about the sustainability, actually includes both of them. This concept have been given by Elkington, which he has categorically told in our discussion we discussed, that it is not possible that we should focus only on the environmental dimension, ignore the social one or ignore the economic one. So supposed to be balanced, but it is very difficult to balance each and everything, because environment have a inverse relationship with economics. We have to invest more. Am I correct or wrong? Economics and environment have an inverse relationship. Not a straightforward question. It seems straight, but not. If that is the case, you'll find out most of the companies will be not investing in the environmental practices, apart from beyond the compliances. Whatever is there in the compliances, they will do so, but beyond the compliance, they will not do so, if this is the case.
Whenever any organization or an industry gets the approval for setting up an industry, they have some certain guidelines to obey. So that guideline is based on the parameter or the performance efficiency of that equipment or that plant. If your product or if your outcome is harming your environment, your equipment or a plant is not running at your rated capacity or rated efficiency, that means you are operating your plant in a less efficient way. So if you are impacting environment, that means that you are not operating your plant properly. If you are not operating your plant properly, means you are also losing at your efficiency also. So this is an indication that you are impacting your environment as well as you are impacting your profitability also.
So actually, if you see, this is one of the very common graph from the marketing, if you remember, product life cycle. And this economics and environment also follow the same. For a period of time, in a short duration of the time, yes, our profits will get affected. But in a long run, it will be started diminishing, means the cost will start diminishing and the profits will get benefited. And usually in operations, we used to have that when we talk about this, profit is having a very simple formula. SP minus CP, which we have studied in class 8th. Being a company, what we can do, our job is to take care of this one. This cannot be affected at any cost of time. So what we can do, selling price and cost price. So either we can increase this and we can increase our profit,
or decrease the
or we can decrease CP and increase the profit. What is supposed to be done?
selling price is not permitted all the times, but cost of operation, yeah, cost price can be managed.
Being an operations guy, the major focus is on the CP part. That we have to reduce down the CP, and when we are talking about the reduction in the CP, in a long run I am talking about, then we have to invest in the technologies. It is investment in technology is mandatory, and then only we can actually address this one. Otherwise, if you are increasing CP, the customers will immediately switch. They are, we have a term called customer loyalty. Sorry to say, but the customers are actually not loyal. Price is something which is loyal to the customers. So as and when when the price, there is a fluctuation in the price, customer may switch. So this is one particular area which is very risky to touch. So being a company, we have to focus on the cost part. If we talk about the differences between the annual, usually the companies used to publish the annual reports, and now the sustainability report is another report which has been introduced. And if you see the major differences, it is talking about the broad set of stakeholders, because it is not only related to only to the investors. Now everybody, whosoever is there in this linked to that, everybody will be a part of this. If you talk about the community, supply chain partners, they are directly involved. Even the government, consumers, everybody have been a part of this. So if you look at the sustainability reports, they are more comprehensive, which actually tells what a company is actually doing. Previously, this is the report. With the help of this, we are doing everything good, it's good. But now, not with your financial statements. Financial statement is okay. That is the one perspective that we have to look into. But another important thing is that we have to look into the sustainability reports also, how they are doing. And this is something which is important in a long run when we are talking about. Because when we are talking about, like as we told, efficient, this tells the effectiveness. Because it is not just a report. If you look at from the strategy perspective, how you have been performing over the years, that can be actually assessed with your sustainability reports, and you can strategize based on the sustainability reports. Either your emissions are going down or not. What about the water wastewater if you talk about, or if you talk about the social dimensions, everything has been reported in numbers. And over the period of time when we are reporting all these perspectives in numbers, that actually help us as a person in terms of the long-term strategy when we are designing. At the same time, most of the reports are supposed to be public in the domain, so that every person can have access to these reports and can decide what they wanted to do. As I told, the GRI is one of the pioneer which has been foundation of almost every sustainability reports. If you talk about Indian perspective, we have BRSR, that is Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reports, which has been from 2021 onward has been mandated. Previously it was in 2013, that was a BRR, Business Responsibility Report, where this concept has been coined. MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, with GRI, they have formulated that this BRR on the basis of national voluntary guidelines, that whatever we are doing, that should be reported, and there they have published this BRR. Later it has been more refined with the increasing changes and other things, because if you talk about the governance perspective, governance is something which is a continuous process. So every day there is a change, and that change supposed to be addressed. So in even this report also in 2021 came up with the BRSR, and in 2022 they have made it mandatory for 1,000 companies, top 1,000 companies, mandated by SEBI particularly. So these if you go into the GRI 2021 report, it is somewhere around 862 page report, and the best part is the term supplier has been somewhere used around 517 times. So when we are talking about the supply chain, I am trying to connect the dots. When we are talking about the suppliers or responsibility, or the one term we discussed about the producer's responsibility, 517 times this term has been used in the report, which is talking about a variety of the different standards and disclosures. If you talk about the GRI standards, it's basically include 3 different set of standards and 33 different disclosures, where GRI 101 is talking about the foundation one, where GRI 101 is talking about the basic foundation. 103 is talking about the material topics. It is something which is very, very much important when we are drafting or formulating the sustainability report. And then we have journal disclosures in 102. They all are related to the governance part. In due course of time, because that one doesn't fit all. In sustainability and in management, we used to say this term that one doesn't fit all. So for that reason, even the sector standards have been developed by the GRI. Different sectors have their different set of standards depending upon the material topics. Now, when we are talking, we'll discuss about the material topics, and then we have GRI 200 series, we have a GRI 300 series and GRI 400 series. GRI 200, as it is talking about the economic, this one is talking about the environmental, and the 400 series is talking about the social perspective. Now, when we are talking about the GRI, or when we are talking about the sustainability report, the 4 important perspectives are there. How you are impacting, means as a business, how I am impacting the society, the environment, and the human life as a whole. So there at that point of time, that is something which is very decisive when we are looking into the material topics. What are the key areas which are going to impact the business? And here when we are talking about this, it could be positive impact. Every time a business does not have a negative impact. So if it, even if it's a positive, that we have to record it. Even if it is a negative, that also supposed to be recorded, because this negative one supposed to be minimized. I'm not saying that it should be eliminated, but supposed to be minimized. And when we are choosing these material topics, we are supposed to pay a due diligence that we are choosing the right topic, right material topic. And other way around, if you see that instead of topic, if you use the term challenge, is comparatively known and convenient. So we need to find out what are the key challenges. And when we are choosing these topics, we are supposed to pay a due diligence to select in the selection of these topics. And when we are selecting these topics, the important part is that we have to include every stakeholder. And when we are doing this complete process, then only we are able to make a genuine and authentic subjective report, sustainability report. So these 4 have their own role in, and if you want to go in details, this is GRI disclosures is there. It is available on internet. If you go through that, you will find out detailed information on what does impact mean, how we'll have to choose the material topics. Recently, we have one project we have done on MSMEs that we were trying to understand, because if you go by the SEBI's report, they have mandated in 2023, they have mandated top 1,000 companies. Maybe in due course of time, the rest of the companies will be there in the line, those who are registered in SEBI, those who are actually trading in the stock market. But how about the SMEs, where they are the suppliers, And we'll try to understand when we'll see in due course of time that they are the one, because your report, sustainability report, will not be furnished, not be complete till the time you are not including your suppliers. So they are supposed to be inculcated, and when we are talking about the SMEs, there is no such things are available during, so there we have gone through the perspective, especially it is sector specific, so we have been into the manufacturing part, so we picked up that too in steel area. There, based on their recommendations, you have to decide about the material topics, you have to verify with the experts, domain experts, and then only you can proceed further, because based on our material topics, the reporting will come into the picture. If, for example, services may have a different material topics, service industry may have a different material topics from the manufacturing sector. So it is very much important to understand the materiality, what exactly the material topics are, and based on that only we have to proceed further for the reporting part. In addition to that, if you see the principles, the reporting principles, again back to the term effectiveness. We have published our report, all good. By end of the day, if it has been gone into the dustbin, we published our report, nobody is actually reading that, then that's of no use. So the most important part is that it should communicate some sort of value to the stakeholders, and for that it is supposed to be accurate, it should be balanced and have a clarity. Usually being a researcher, we used to use some of the big terms which are not able to not well comprehended by a normal person, because I am a researcher, I have to show off. So I'll use some very big short terms which may not be well communicated to the people, and that actually is not suffice, because by end of the day I am not able to clarify what I am willing to communicate. So the clarity is something which is important. Comparability, as I said, when we are publishing a report on year basis, and if we are keep on publishing, there is no improvement is there in the sustainability dimensions, then the report is of actually no use. It should have a completeness, should be addressing the various perspectives of the different disclosures which are there under the different standards. It should be inculcating every possible thing. It is just not like that we are simply providing a descriptive report. It should address the sustainability context, means everything is from the same dimension. Justice delayed is justice denied. One of the big term from code of law. Similarly, same with the sustainability. For 2023 report or for 2024 report, if I am publishing somewhere in 26 or 27, by that time I have done enough work to damage the environment. So it is important that we have been publishing the report on time, and that's the reason why somewhere in the month of June or something, they have to submit their sustainability report or something. I publish my report, or you have written your paper. And if you are evaluating, obviously if I am writing a paper and I'll be evaluating, I'll be giving, if I'm a bit generous, at least 90 marks I can give myself. Simply, if a company is publishing its own report, though they have to publish, and they are verifying by themselves, because I being a company, I will not be wrong. So the most important part is that is a third party assurance which is in picture. Now companies are probably, they have to give their assurance report from the third party, that the anything which is there, which is documented in these reports are authentic and genuine, credible, and the different stakeholders can actually rely on the given set of information. Because by end of the day, the investors and other stakeholders, forget about the stakeholders, investors are making their decision based on the given set of report. If you talk about the mutual funds, insurance and others, they are deciding to pick up the given set of stock based on the given set of reports. including various other aspects, but this is one of the key parameter. If it is not verified, then there is a possibility. One of the example, if you remember, Satyam 2008. Corporate governance issue. They have been diverting their money to Mitas, their sister concern, and it was that process have been keep on going for 5 years. So the most important part is that in order to avoid such kind of phenomena, it is important that it should be verified by the third party, but not very sure that it is good to go, because end of the day we used to have a asterisk mark. Any information which is any research which used to be published, there is a asterisk mark, subject to the condition. So it might be a possibility that something may went wrong. And when we are talking about the GRI, it actually includes all these, as I told, that the guidelines, the disclosures, the guidelines and the frameworks that have been well included into the GRI. That's the reason why this has been a most comprehensive one, which have been followed by variety of the countries with respect to, and at the same time it includes every perspective. Now we are in process, like GRI and researchers are in process where they are trying to triangulate GRI and SDGs in a number form, in a quantitative form. In a qualitative form we do have that, but they are trying to merge both the perspective in a quantitative format, where anything which have been reported, because otherwise they are working in isolation. So they are when they both are talking about the sustainability, so they should communicate the same set of meaning. If I am reading one, I can at least understand the another one. Now if you talk about the specific standards, we used to have general standards and a specific, and these are the core, where you have been talking about economic, you have been talking about the environment, and you have been talking about the social, though this has not been there, and environmental compliance is not there. So this is having 7, this is having 7, and this is having 18. And when we are talking about the emissions, scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3, that is another thing. And when we are talking about scope 3, this is a one where suppliers actually come into the picture. What impact they are actually doing in terms of emission, that has supposed to be calculated. Now at one point of time, our suppliers are small. If they are big, then it's good to go, but if they are small in size, then there is no specific measures are available. And how my GRI or how my sustainability report will be completed when I am not actually talking about the scope 3. So for that reason, when they are the suppliers, they are the small firms, so it is important that they should also get into the same loop. If they are reporting, then only we can say that everything has been intact, and we can actually, whatever be the outcome is coming out, that is, we can actually work on that. Even if you go in detail about the materials, again they have been talking about the recycling, they have been talking about the reclaiming. The material which we are using for transportation and others, what kind of material that is, the material which is that material is recycled, it is a virgin material which we are using, the core material, or it is a recycled material we are using. So every possible thing should be given in numbers. The best part is that here the things will be given in numbers. So over the period of time, if we are mentioning something in a qualitative format, it's comparatively easier to what you can say, communicate. By today what we are communicating, tomorrow we can communicate in a different sense, because that is subjective. But when something is there in the number form, then the changing that particular number is a very difficult assignment. So everything what we are talking about, they are supposed to be given in numbers. Then if you see this 308 talking about the assessment of suppliers, even here in this there are disclosures which talk about the selection of suppliers based on their environmental assessment. When we are selecting the new suppliers, we have to go by the their environmental assessment. At the same time, if you see in social, we used to have a social assessment of the suppliers. So as I said, 517 times the term supplier has actually came into the picture. At the same time, when we are talking about the scope 3, which again talks about the supplier, so supply chain when we are can't be work in silos without considering the sustainability. And even if the big firms, when we are talking about, they are supposed to, when they are giving their reports, when they are publishing their reports, the inclusion of their suppliers is important. And because if you see all these standards which have been mentioned over here, and when you go in deeper, you'll find out that every point of time they have been asking about the suppliers. Even when we are talking about the human rights, when we are talking about the child labor or forced or compulsory labor, they have been very categorically talking about the suppliers. What is the status of your suppliers? Do they engage or involve compulsory labor? And for compulsory labor, Foxconn is one of the examples, though it is a very good big company. And this is our Indian principles, 9 principles on which we are working. Based on these 9 principles, we used to have our BRSR report. And if you dig deeper into that, you'll find out that they all are actually, when you look into the report, you'll find out that they all have been extracted from the GRI. Based on the GRI itself, this BRSR has been developed over the period of time from 2008 to 2023. It has evolved a lot. And this is one of the significant steps which has been taken by Ministry of Corporate Affairs to address the sustainability dimension, because by if we go by the SDGs, that is for 2030, we have to talk about, because sustainable development goals for 15 years of duration. So we'll have to achieve that in a positive note. And these 9 principles are actually talking about the portions which we have discussed in our GRI 1. It includes, it is not very much segregated, but they include each and every perspective. Now let's go back to the same question. Which is most important, economic, environment or social? If you have gone through the numbers, you might guess.
And on a case to case basis, again, like you said, that inverse relationship between the economic and environment, in short run, obviously that inverse relationship exists, but in longer run, the relationship becomes similar. So sir, it's very tough to say which one will be 1, 2 and 3, because it will depend upon situation to situation, case to case, in which phase the company or the corporate is functioning.
Based on explicit, I'm not talking about the implicit information, based on the explicit information which we have been here till, means based on the variety of the frameworks and numbers.
So environment, social and then economic.
Environment?
Environment, social and economic.
Somebody else have any suggestion?
Three things are correlated to each other.
No, that is true.
But suppose if I will not gain, then I will not invest in the for environment.
Economics first.
Economics the first. If I will get profit, then I will invest for the sustainability, for the environment. Then after getting the benefit, then I will go for the social things.
Some young brilliant minds. Any guess? I'll tell you, I'll show you the data points that will help you out to. Okay, so just based on the calculations, if you see 1, 2, 4, 4, 3, 7, 4, 4, 3, 7, 4, 6, 10. So there is a tie between economic and environmental, and social is at the last stage. Now here if you see specific standards, they are 18. This is 7, this is 7. Again, another thing is SDGs. If you talk about, there are 17 SDGs. Out of 17, 8 are talking about the social. So I'm talking about based on the numbers. Depending upon the conditions, it may change. So But if you go by the numbers, when the standards are more, obviously that must be having a certain weightage. And in both the cases, even if you talk about the GRI, even if you talk about the SDG, in both the cases, and they have been universal standards which have been applied across the board. So based on these two things, we could say that not affirmative, but still social, then economic and environment. Based on the numbers I am talking about. And even if you go back to the MDG also, there also you will find out majority of the portion have been focused more on the social dimension. And these are the variety of the reporting frameworks comparison which have been given. If you see this GRI which has been commonly used, it's mainly talk about how, and the most important part is talk about how business impact on the society. Even if you talk about, if you see the SASB, or now it is a value reporting foundation, ESG issues impact the business and mainly about investors. Though if you talk about the CDP, it is restricted. If you talk about TCFD, they are again restricted. But if you talk about, even if you talk about the global GC, that is having a focus on a very limited area. But as in again this one, these are the two actual frameworks which are holistically talking about the stakeholders and mainly focusing on the holistic perspective of every possible individual or person or the community whosoever is getting affected out of our businesses. That is the reason why these are the framework which have been widely used by variety of the countries. And this is the basic summary which again have been published by the KPMG report. If you go through that, you will find out that now the focus of the investors has been keep on increasing to invest in the ESG one, where rapid investment in the sustainability capabilities has been top priority. Now people are investing more into the ESG investments, and even if you look at the ESG funds that have been keep on increasing, which shows that the investors are more inclined toward ESG, more inclined toward the climate change. Now people are trying to understand the significance of climate change, I would say. Still I will not say the sustainability, but again the urgency to work for the climate change that people have started in understanding, and that's the reason why they have been investing more into the environmental perspective. So with this, we are trying to wind up the session for the day.